Welcome everybody to the fourth race out of a 25 slated season here for the 2025 VTuber Racing Series. It's been a while since we have last done one of these. It's been 2 weeks. And in those last 2 weeks, a lot has marinated and a lot has kind of calmed down after the first trio of races and events have taken shape. But there has been some storylines that have already been built up from these first 3 races of the season. Maybe, just maybe, they'll be built on even more. If not, maybe we'll see a change in those set storylines, and maybe we'll see a brand new set of storylines being built after this race here today at the Meadowlands Speedway, a fictional track. I thought it was a real track at first, but I realized after doing like 2 extra minutes of research, it is a fictional track. Not often do we have fictional tracks here on this series. We only had like a few last season, and this is our first of a few this season. We will get a slight glimpse of the track here early on. Thought we were going to be doing a full pace lap, but it is not, so you won't be able to see the backstretch or turn 1 until race time. I can get you a look at the front stretch and where turns 3 and 4 are during the pace laps. But that's all you're going to really get until the action starts. But with that out of the way, there are a few other updates that I will get to at the end of the race. But we are also on record watch, which means that I'm recording this race just in case my internet decides to fall off a cliff during this stream. And if that does happen, and if it happens for an extended period of time, I will just record this race. This race will be recorded, and it'll get uploaded onto YouTube instead of streamed on YouTube. If that's the case, sorry. That's just how my internet's been the last few days. It's been very, very spotty. It's winter months. That's always happens here at this household. So, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and let's talk about what we have witnessed the last couple of races. Actually, we have, I've just now realized I don't have the top 10 video made for this race. That's the one thing I forgot to do. So we will not be going through the top 10 in the style that we did the last couple of weeks, where I talk more in depth about those starters. Instead, we'll just go through the rest of the field the way that we did last year, which is just bottom up F1 style, and I might talk more about them, I might not, when we get inside the top 10 for the starting spots. Again, I apologize. I have not had the greatest of weeks, physically, mostly physically. I have not really been able to work at my computer lately because I have been sick. So yeah, I am doing this race at 90%. Actually, rather 80%. Now that I think about it. So that's why there was no VTuber football tournament on the initial scheduled date. It was going to happen on the Thursday morning. And then it didn't happen, so I pushed it to Friday, thinking I was going to be fine on Friday morning. I was not. I got sick. But I think I'm a little better now, so we are going to get through these scheduled sports streams here with the VTuber Racing Series and the football tournament here. Maybe tomorrow, if not Tuesday morning. I'm hoping tomorrow. I am hoping tomorrow so I can get that out of the way, so I can get round 2 going this week as well. It's going to be a busy week for me for the schedule-wise. I got a busy week. I was going to mention that at the end of the stream, and I already just did it today, or right now. So guess what? I'm going to be repeating myself at the end of this stream. Ha! But yes, let's finally get into today's race here at the Meadowlands Speedway. But before we do that, actually, let's take a look at the last race's results here momentarily. This is what ended up happening last race at Kansas. Mid Phantom ended up winning the race, leading a dominant 68 laps out of a 174 slated race. That is the 3rd time this season, which means in all 3 races, the winner of the race has also been the most dominant driver of that said race. At Daytona, it was William. At Riverside, it was Noriboshi. And last race at Kansas, it was Mint. Which also means that Mint is the first rookie driver to win in this series. I figured it was going to take us a little bit longer, considering we have a pretty good mix of rookies and experienced drivers in the field. I didn't think it would take us 3 races. I thought it would take us till at least like race 10, maybe a little earlier, but Mint totally did me wrong right there. Won in the 3rd race of the season, and again, a dominant performance there. The points situation, let me bring that up here real quick. We'll expand upon the points here later in the season. Again, only 3 total races have been completed, and right now it's a 10-point gap between the top 3. And it's actually Noriboshi, William, and David who is the top 3. And while as David has not won a race this season, he has been up front quite a bit. Obviously with the 2 top 5s and the 2 top 10s and a whole slew of laps led this season, he puts himself in the 3rd place spot. Mint, however, last race's winner and dominator of that race, by the way, jumped up 15 and is now 5th in the standings, so she's not too far behind. The 3 winners are all inside the top 5 here in the points. If anybody inside the top 10 really wins today's race, similar to how the other 3 winners have had it this season, they'll probably be, well, relatively inside the podium position for the championship. I mean, it's close between Noriboshi and William, but then as we get farther down the list, it gets pretty sporadic. I mean, there's only 12 drivers that are with mathematically a chance to... Actually, 11 drivers that are mathematically able to take away the championship lead coming out of today's race. I'm still sick. So if my voice cracks, it's because of my sinuses and my throat. I've had a lot of issues with both those areas. Sorry. But that's how the points shake up here today. It is, again, relatively close for the top spot, but it's only for the 2 drivers that have won this season, that of Noriboshi and William. Let's take a gander at our starting lineup here today. Again, I'm not going to be able to go through the top 10 in depth like I did the last couple of races because I didn't make that video, so I don't have that ready for me. That was the one thing I forgot to do, like I said. So we'll have to just basically go through this and kind of just go through it F1 style here. Once we get into the top 10, I might go more in depth, but we'll see. So, starting at the back of the field will be Ozora Subaru and Keisan. They will start in the final row. And then it's Greg and Zool who will start the second row from last, which kind of a disappointing qualifying start for those drivers. They did finish quite well, I think, at Kansas. They were up front for a majority of the race, except for Zool, if I remember correctly. 36th and 35th, Larry Reed starts 36th, Dreamer starts 35th. Chris starts 34th, a not-so-good qualifying run for them once again. ZenQ starts at the 33rd spot. Merriweather starts 32nd. A surprising twist here, we got David who starts at 31st. He is a driver that's 3rd in the points at the moment. And Jojo and Iron Mouse will round out... Well, actually, Iron Mouse will start 29th. Jojo will start just inside the top 30. Michi starts at the 28th spot. Bell starts at the 27th spot. Jordan Brunch starts at the 26th spot. And then a driver that's inside the top 5 in points of NASA, Kaito NASA, will start 25th. Ina will start at the 24th spot. Getsu will start in the 23rd spot. They're looking to recover from a horrifying wreck that happened at the Kansas Speedway a couple weeks back. But they start 23rd, so mid-pack for them once again. Weibo starts 22nd. Kansas race winner and dominant performer of that said race of Mids, and they'll start the back half of the field just barely in the 21st spot. Kyoso will start in 20th. Inside the top 20, we'll begin with Doki Bird starting from the 19th spot. Then Utica Fujikura will start from the 18th spot. Snuffy, a driver that's barely inside the top 10 in points, actually just outside of it rather, starts at the 17th spot. Starlight will start from the 16th spot. Medtrix will start from the 15th. Climbing inside that top 15, we got the 420 of Soleil, who will start from the 14th spot. And the number 53 of Fifi will start from the 13th spot. Kuroko Denai will start from the 12th place spot, and Daytona winner of William will start in the 11th spot. Now we creep inside the top 10 here with Kohai starting from the 10th place spot. Had a solid race at Kansas. kind of fell apart at near the end of the race, but solid race nonetheless. They'll start from the 10th place spot. Shy Lily starts from the 9th place spot. They did not have a good race at all at Kansas. They were destined for failure, especially after getting involved in a wreck early on in that race, which basically sent their car packing. They could not have a recovery whatsoever. So Shy Lily looking to recover from a Kansas meltdown. We'll start from the top 10 here today, starting at night. Noriboshi, points leader for today's race. Coming into today's race, they'll start from the 8th place spot, just barely in the frame. Noriboshi had a pretty solid day at the Kansas race, which is why they are the championship leader heading into today's race. They have a 7-point gap, as we saw, so it's not terribly tight, but it's also not too far of a distance between them and William, especially considering Noriboshi is starting 3 spots ahead of William, so good starting spot for that. Shalon will start from the 7th place spot. They are looking to try to recover from what has not been a good start to the season for Shalon. A solid finish at Daytona, almost had the win, couldn't get the job done. And then at Riverside, got knocked out early in the race, completely knocked out due to a wreck. So that'll take them deeper down into the points. And then Kansas was at first going to be a solid run for them. And then it all just kind of blew up in their face. I don't know why. It just didn't work out for them near the end of the race. And it knocked them in the back half of the field to end that race. Or at least they were there. I don't know exactly where they finished, but they were in the back half of the field near the end of the race. Starting in the 6th place spot is Asa, who had a wreck that happened that should have been a caution, but was not a caution. They ended up retiring from the race because of it. They finished dead last race. I gotta keep doing that, sorry. But they'll start from the 6th place spot today, looking to recover in a big way after that said no call that took them out of the race. Starting inside the top 5 is DJ Overdrive, a driver that has been quietly in the picture for the last couple of races, but hasn't had much success. They're inside the top 15 in points, but looking to be just that tad bit better. Starting at the 4th place spot is Kiri Kilovolt. They were leading and were the dominant driver before they got taken out in the wreck that took out a couple drivers, including Getu, that ended up on their roof. So Kiri Kilovolt was leading at the time of that wreck, and they got involved. That took them out of the race. They practically finished 38th or 39th, if I remember correctly. One of those 2 spots exactly. They are deep in the points now after that whole shabacle. And now they are looking to, once again, try to have a clean race that actually ends up with them either on top of the podium or in the podium. And a much better points day coming out of today than into today. So they start 4th in the 2nd row. Alongside of them, the 20 of Angelina Kumalo, who also was up in the top part of the field early in the race at Kansas, could not secure much in terms of momentum. They didn't really finish super well, so they'll start from the 3rd place spot today with a chance to have a much better day today than at Kansas. Then on the front row for today's race, the number 5 of Competito and the number 38 of Ruby Nakamata. Those 2 drivers, again, did not have a good race whatsoever at Kansas. Competito especially, they fell back early and they could not have anything right go for them whatsoever. No matter how hard they tried, they fell several laps down and they just could not recover. Ruby Nakamata, however, finished 2nd at Kansas. Just came up that short of a victory for Ruby. But they start on the pole for today's race. So, that's how things shake up. Things shake out quickly here in this series. Let's go ahead, and I have been at this for the last 20 minutes now, almost 15 rather. We're gonna go right on ahead, and we are going to take it down to trackside here. We are gonna get a slim look, like I said, at the track. It's not going to be the full look just quite yet, just simply because I thought this was gonna be a full pace lap. It's not. But let's go to trackside for this race here. Here is the start-finish line. It is on the exit of pit lane, which we'll also see here is a big old turn 3 and 4. that's how things shake up here today. It is similar to California. It is a similar to California style track. We are lined up in the middle of turns 3 and 4, so we are set to have what is essentially going to be I gotta make sure my game is also not muted, because it does sound like it is not muted. Let me make sure the audio actually works for this. Audio does work, sweet. It was just pretty quiet for a moment. Well, we are rolling here at the Meadowlands. I also forgot. Shoot. I did forget about the track information. This is a 2-mile track, actually a little bit bigger than that. We have 150 laps. Fuel window is 50 to 55. And the tire wear factor is, again, a 3 out of 5. So it is a very big factor here at this track. Tire wear is that is. So I forgot to pull that up, too. I am out of it. I am washed. Well, Ruby Nakamata and Competito will lead them to the green flag to get us started here for our 4th race of the season. It's underway here at the Meadowlands Speedway. Not so quickly through the gears. Ruby Nakamata will send us down into turn number 1. A turn similarly banked to Michigan. You'll see a backstretch here that's quite long. In fact, we'll go on board with Kamalo here to start things off here, going into turns 3 and 4. Hard on the brakes. So that's how things shake up here, the early goings of this race. That's the full look of the track. Once more, let's go down into turn 1 on board with the number 5 Competito. And that's for 150 laps around this track. Ruby Nakamata takes the race lead early on and actually builds up quite a gap here to start things off. They are 3 wide behind top 3 here, or top 4. Now side by side, as several drivers send it in a little deep there. Kilovolt that almost got into it with overdrive. And Kilovolt almost again getting involved in an early accident. As they're still 3 wide with Fifi at the very bottom of the racetrack. The bottom line is going to be somewhat feasible, but I think that middle line is going to be the preferred line when you are in a 3-wide situation. Fifi took advantage of that 3-wide move, though, and has moved up to about the 6th spot. Yep. Shy Lily just ahead of her, sitting in that 5th spot. Scoop that up a little bit. There we go. Again, I am going to keep an eye on my internet. My internet has dropped a few times in the last couple days, so if that does happen, and if it happens for an extended period of time, this video will get uploaded to YouTube, because I am recording it, just in case. Top 3, down to 0.2 of a second. Kamalo and Competito trying to chase down Nakamata here for that top spot. But it's single file through most of the top 10. A feeling out process here in the first 4 laps of the race. Competito slides up slightly. Loses a little bit of time here to the 20 car, and that's also allowing Shalon in the 17 to also take advantage here. Make it a 4, maybe 5 car battle for the lead with Shy Lily coming up as well. Well, like I said, fuel window is 50 to 55 laps. Maybe the farthest is 60. Some of that fuel window number, by the way, might be off just by the fact that some drivers may not pit for fuel, but mainly for tires. Because, like I said, 3 out of 5 on that scale, which is quite a bit of a concern for some of these drivers. Yeah, side-by-side battle for second here, going into turn 4, sorry. Almost said 3, it's actually 4. And we got a yellow flag. Speaking of turns 3 and 4, yellow flag is out. We'll check it here in a second. Nakamata to the line will lead him. Got a piece car. Oh, Zool, the 21's involved. Damage on the front end. Oh, Greg as well, slow. Michi as well, a little slow. I don't know if they're involved, though. I do know that Zool and Greg may be involved. Let's take a gander at it. Oh boy, it's a little bit more than just that. So let's take a look here. This is going into 3 and 4. Greg looks down low. Oh no, that didn't happen with Greg. He was just an innocent victim. Oh wow. Yeah, it was Mentrix and Kuro that got into it. Send him down the track into the 31. Another look at it. And that spun him across up the track. Into Michi, into Kuro, into Zool. They both hit the wall. So did Kuro, but Kuro's fine. That's early damage for the 21 and the 31. As well as a 2 and the 30. A little bit of side damage on that 30 car. Yeah, big time problems there for both Zool and Greg. They did not qualify good this race, and early problems for both drivers. They are damaged, to say the least. I would say they look pretty good. But we saw something similar happen with Asa, Kansas, and they retired on the spot. Despite having very minimal damage when all was said and done. Caution here on lap number 6. Ruby, rather, is going to lead them through the field. If the 31 and the 21 get that damage repaired, they aren't going to be super quick, so it may not be a solid day for the two of them. Which is rather unfortunate. Let's see if we got any early takers here. And going into the pits. I don't think anybody's pitting except for the drivers that were involved in the wreck. Looks like Ina's also in there as well. Yeah, there's Ina. They weren't involved. But Kuro, Greg, and Zool, they were involved, and they are in the pits. So, in terms of anybody that wants to maybe pit and get some extra advantage for the tires, there's nobody. There is nobody. Turning up the volume a little bit, also moving around some stuff. There we go. I don't know if we'll go 1 to green. I think it might be too late for that. Especially because we got a couple cars in the pits. Zool looks fine. Greg looks like they got that damage repaired. At least the rear end repaired. From the looks of it. We are 1 to green, so a late call there, but we are 1 to green. Looks like everybody... Alright, real quick, it'll be Ruby in first, Kamalo in second, Competito in third, Shalon in fourth, Shylily in fifth, Fifi in sixth, Starlight in seventh, Kilovolt in eighth, Kohai in ninth, and Noriboshi in 10th, DJ Overdrive in 11th, Soleil in 12th, David in 13th, Ksod 14th, Mint in 15th, Doki Bird 16th, Bell in 17th, William in 18th, Dreamer in 19th, and Iron Mouse rounds out the top 20. And the rest of the field on back as we are set to go back racing here on lap number 8. Subaru started from the dead last spot, and she's gained up about 6 spots. 6 or 7 spots, so good on them so far. I mean, it is still only a handful of spots, but we are also only 7 laps into this race once we get the race back underway here. So our first caution of the day comes pretty early, not even double-digit laps into the race. We'll see if that becomes a big ol' common occurrence in this race as we are back racing here, the Meadowlands Speedway. Everybody's pretty tight together here to start things off going into turn number 1. Nobody was able to really get a big jump here. I'm not too sure, but I believe possibly the acceleration on these cars may be a bit hindered at this track. Either that or these drivers aren't taking it too aggressively to go through the gears. They are hitting about 190, almost 200 going into the exit of the straightaways, going into the corners. But then they don't seem to be climbing up through the gears as quickly. Battle for the third spot here. Shalon's going to take it away from Competito, going across the start-finish line to complete the 8th lap. Nobody has attempted to make a move on the 38 so far for the race lead. I know we haven't had much opportunities for that, though, but that is just something to say for right now. But they have broken away. The top two have broken away, about a couple tenths of a second apart from the third-place car. And a trio of blue-ish colored cars right now. We got the 17, the 18, and the 24, all relatively the same colors. Different shades of blue and even a purple car, but still closely shaded colors here. Maybe 3 wide again with Kilovolt looking underneath the 28 of Kohai and the 5 of Competito. Competito on this restart about to fall outside the top 10. They restarted inside the top 5. They're about to fall outside the top 10 here momentarily. Stuck on that high side. They have not had any sort of opportunities to get to that middle or bottom line, and that's kind of hurting them right now. They're falling back. Yeah, they have fallen outside the top 10. They got passed by David, who last clocked in 12th place. And they got passed by Kason, who last clocked in at 10th. So the 5 of Competito, not a short-run car. It looks like they're hoping for something that has happened in the last couple of races, which is long green flag runs. Which may be the case here. We got a battle for the lead. Or at least Kamalo's going to peek to the inside, maybe take away that race lead. The bottom line has been pretty dominant so far today. Kamalo's going to try to take advantage of it, take the race lead away, and will clear coming off of turn 2 down the back. So, new race leader for now. It's the 20 of Kamalo, who we have seen have some success up front early in the race. Not so much at the later stages of it. And that battle for second still continuing on, now drops back to third as the 38 now is the next participant of a driver that's fallen back. It's shoveled out to that outside line, and it's not a good line to run in right now. Oh, contact! Wow, speaking of sliding up, the 28 almost got into it with Fifi. And now 3 wide, it's Kilovolt and David. That's a driver that started in the rear of the field that we saw with qualifying, but look at him come up through the field. He's outside the top 10 now. He started back in the 30s, the back half of the 30s. He's up in the side of the top 10, and it's only taken him 12 laps to get here. He's got a fast car. He's got a pretty fast car, all things considered. Ruby falls back to 5th after leading the first handful of the first 10-plus laps. Right now it's Kamalo, Shalon, Shy Lily, and Fifi. And then back to Nakamata for the top 5. And then you got David in 6th. Kason in 7th. 8th is Kohai. 9th is Kilovolt. And 10th is Starlight. Competito is in 11th after all is said and done. So they file back out just outside the top 10. The speeds here down the backstretch. Clocks about 190 miles an hour for the race leader. Maybe a little bit faster if you go back second because of the draft. But then they have to slam on the brakes to make the corner, which drops them down to about 140, about 150, somewhere between there. That has caused some drivers to slide up. We saw Metrix and Kuro get into it, which caused the first caution. And then we saw something almost happen between Kohai and Kilovolt, which almost caused our second crash of this. Actually, no, it was Fifi that was involved in that. It was all 3 of them. All 3 of them got involved in what could have been a big wreck. Now David's inside the top 5. Looking behind, he's got the 18 in his sights. Fifi now up to 2nd. A lot of things are happening right now. David slides way up the racetrack going into turn 3. He's going to lose a little bit of time, maybe a position. Right now the top 4 all bunched together, single file. David sliding all over the racetrack right now. Kason's looking out of line right now in the 6th spot. As Ruby's going to try to take away that spot on that high line, but probably won't be able to get there in time before Kason files back up there. So right now the lap times are sitting at 43 seconds, and we're already 15 laps in, and they're more than, what, a second off plus? Yeah, more than a second off, and we're just 15 laps into this run. And look at all this gaps here for these cars. Let's take a look here. 21 is Zool, who saw get involved in that first wreck. He came into the pits, got that damage repaired, even some fresh tires. They're the best out of that bunch that got involved in that wreck, but they're still 28th. Look at the back half of the top 20 here on the leaderboard. But yeah, the leader is running a 43.358. Slightly slower, actually, from behind. But yeah, that is still about more than a second off the pace in terms of their fastest lap. Which is a bit surprising. I really thought a 3 out of 5 was being generous. I should probably have upped that to a 5. Because, man, tire strategy is going to be off the rails here once we get into the pit stops. Going to see some drivers that are going to probably short pit. And when they do that, they are going to gain a massive advantage, about a second plus a lap. And doing so, that's going to that's going to shuffle this field. So we're going to have to keep an eye out on that. But we got pit stops coming up here. When we get pit stops, if anybody's out of sequence, just anybody, that's going to shuffle the field up by a lot. I mean, look at David. I mean, despite David not on paper looking like they're running fast laps, he started back in the 30s, and he's up to third. He's up to third. He's running consistently quick lap times. He's got the grip in the car. He's got a good short run car. 17 laps in, he's gained more than 30 spots. He's got a fast car, all things considered. Battle for the lead, or at least Fifi looked like they were going to go for the lead. They're going to stay side by side down the backstretch. Maybe David will take a 3 wide down the back. Still side by side for the lead going into turn 3 here. And, excuse me, Fifi is going to clear, and David's going to take second, or at least they're there to take second. Kayson's there to also take advantage. So now the 20 car is going to file back to 4th, maybe 5th, because here comes Shy Lily up in the picture as well. Top 5 are all bunched together, and then it's a little bit of a gap till you get back to that 6th place spot. And now here comes David again. Yeah, he's sitting 3rd in the points, but if he could get a good finish here today, like a win, maybe a top 5, he could be in the contention for a championship hunt here early in this season. Now the 77 car back out front. He's led a couple laps this season already. Compared to a lot of other drivers, he's been very scarcely up front. But he's been one of the more dominant drivers that hasn't really actually been dominant. He's led what right now would be his 31st lap of the season, right around that mark. So with that, he has led a lap in practically every single race this season. Most of them coming from Daytona. And he was in contention. Actually, no, Riverside was a pretty dominant race for him. Not the dominant car of the race, but most of the laps that he has led rather has been from Riverside because he started up at that front row. And that race was dominated by that front row, both the David and Noriboshi, but Noriboshi was the more dominant car out of that bunch. But currently, right now, David's leading the fold. He's got a pretty fast race car. He's actually built a little bit of a gap here. 2nd place. So we're 20 laps into this. We're 20 laps into this run. Not all green flag laps, obviously. We had that one caution earlier, but if we look at the lap times, they're still about more than 1.5 seconds off of where they were initially. So tire saving strategy is going to be a key factor here. If these drivers could save tires in the back, they are going to be in a much better spot later down the road. Chris Cobb, deep in the 40s. He's more than 3 seconds off his best lap, so he's struggling again. They got Zool and Greg who were involved in that first wreck. They're still outside the top 30, but they're not actually bad at the moment. They're running pretty good despite getting involved in that first wreck. So far the top 5, we got David, Fifi, Kason, Shy Lily, and Kohai. And then you got Kamalu, who just fell back to 6th. And then Bell in 7th. 8th place is Nekomata, the pole sitter. 9th place is Doki Bird, another driver that started actually just inside the top 20. And has gained quite a lot of spots. Getsu's inside the top 10. They gained, right now, 13 spots. They started in the 23rd spot. Kilovolt losing a couple spots outside the top 10. Starlight 12th. Noriboshi 13th, I think. There are a lot of positions that have changed here. Shalon's actually back to the 15th spot after being up to 2nd at one point early on. Then Competito, who we saw in 2nd place, has now fallen back to the 18th spot here on lap 23. So a lot of drivers that are finding their long run speeds at the setups. A lot of drivers using that ability to get them up front here early on in this race. Top 3 are all drivers that have ran in the first season of this series, so maybe some experience there to boost their performance at the moment. Maybe so. Well, we did have a first-time winner at Kansas, so we'll see if that really takes place near the end of this race, or if another first-time winner is in the cards for our future here. Yeah, a lot of two packs here. Lots of 2-packs inside this top 10. Got David all by himself, then a 2-pack for 2nd, and then a 2-pack for the 4th spot, then a 2-pack for the 6th spot, and then a 2-pack for the 8th spot, and then Kilovolt all by themselves in 10th place. With another 2-pack right behind her of Nekomata and Starlight. So, quite an interesting thing that we got set up here. Actually, it might be a 3-pack for the lead now, but still, interestingly, it is evenly spread out throughout the course of the intervals. Now we look at this run here. We are about halfway through, I would say roughly halfway through this green flag run. And the lap times have dropped to more than 2 seconds off the pace. I'm telling you, go into the pits, get some tires, run several laps, and you'll make up a lot of that distance. But you also have a double-edged sword on that strategy at the same time. You do that, you're going to lose a lot more time later in the run when everybody else has come down into the pits. So, it's going to be a double-edged sword once we get to the green flag cycle of stops here, or even under caution, depending on what we have. But David's maintained the gap so far between up 0.2 of a second to a second, but Kason has dropped that gap considerably. And might even try to take the race lead away. You are gonna have to realize that some of these drivers that are holding back, they may be just holding back because they know that the tires are going away faster than they thought. Now in practice and qualifying, surprisingly, none of this was a problem. But it's just now the race that these tires are getting eaten alive. A 3 out of 5 scale. I did initially put that on as a 3 out of 5, but I thought that I'm fooled. Like, there was tire wear in practice, obviously, and in qualifying, but not to the extent that we're seeing right now. Not to the extent that we're seeing right now. It is massive. More than 2 seconds off of a 27-lap run. Now, I'm not too sure if that is all because of the tires or if it's all the drivers wanting to hot lap early on, see what they got short run wise, and then maybe tamper off. But at the same time, too, regardless, it's baffling to look at the lap times near the top right of the screen as they show more than 2 seconds off the pace for every driver. Not a particular driver, every driver, because tires mean that much more than possibly the whole season. I think this may be one of the tracks where it may be the worst case scenario for the tire wear. Maybe. There's a couple tracks that are up there which could possibly tell you different. This is back here. This is battle for 5th here. We got a couple drivers battling for that set spot. You got Shy Lily, who holds on to that spot, but then you got Bell, and then you got Kamalo, and then you got Getsu, who's up to 8th, Doki Bird in 9th, and Kilovolt still in that top 10 spot. So it's going to be a tough task here And I hate to say this, but the top 10 that you see right now that I just went through, in about 50 laps, it's all going to be different. Because we're going to have some drivers that are going to take more of a gamble, and they're going to possibly try to maybe outmaneuver or out-strategize everybody else and try to get a better tire advantage. Then you also have the adjustments, which already is going to play a big factor in the shuffle. We saw a lot of this at Kansas. A mighty first run that was dominated by Kilovolt and Mins, which resulted in Kilovolt getting knocked out of the race because they got involved in the one and only wreck. But that was at the second part of the run. But Kilovolt and Mint were dominant in the first run. Or at least in the first part of that first run. And then everything just kind of changed. It became a battle between Jojo, Kyoso, and a few others. And then that changed up with a couple laps to go. It's like, you watch the race, you watch one part of the race, it's one race, and then you watch another part of the race, even though it's the same race in theory, it's a different race on execution. You got several different races going on, you got several different drivers battling for the lead. And even though that was a major component in Season 1, it was a thing all season long last year, and it was a major thing all last season throughout the whole race, not just part of it. But what's so different about this season is that instead of the race being different every lap, it's now parts of the race that are consistent, and then different parts of the race turn into chaos. Well, welcome to racing. That's just how it is in general, but it is quite interesting to see. Oh, the 18 is sliding way up the racetrack. They fell back to 8th the last time we checked, but now they're going to fall outside the top 10. Maybe Shy Lily's got some issues with their race car, with their race car, with their race car, with their race car. Not them, but their race car. They have fallen outside the top 10. They are now 11th, and that last lap was a 46-second lap time. Good God. We are already off the pace by almost 3 seconds. That lap by Shy Lily was off by 2 seconds plus what we already are falling off to with the tires. So that was a bad lap by Lily, as they have now fallen to 11th, and maybe they're hanging on to that spot for the moment. Second place is still heating right up, and this is kind of helping David build and maintain a gap. Depending on how this race goes, it may not be a long race. We are 33 laps down into this 150 lap event. It may be a long race. It kind of depends. Cautions will make it longer, I'll tell you that much. If we get a couple more cautions, it'll be a longer race, I'll tell you that much. So far, David's been strong ever since climbing to the point. Again, he started back in the 30s, but then has climbed all the way up because he's got a pretty strong car, at least from what I've been seeing. There's no other way to put it. He's got a strong car. Qualifying probably just didn't go the way for the 77 crew, but that doesn't seem to affect them that much at all. It didn't take him that long to climb up inside the top 10, and it certainly didn't take him much longer to climb up to the top of the board. He's leading a lot of the laps here in the early goings of this event. Kohai now up to second. Top four still stay maintained together, well maintained together. Fifi will drop back to that 4th place spot. Right now, these top four, they got a 5 second gap to 5th on back. So right now, they're just running their own race, not really trying to do anything crazy. Probably just run it until they get to the pit stop. And once they do, they'll be able to build out a bigger gap because they'll have 5 extra seconds to do stuff. Ooh. David, oh, everybody inside the top 4 slid up that time, going into turn 2. I think that was a case of David messed up, but everybody else followed him because they're just following what David's doing. That was interesting. They all slid up with David. And now David again sliding up the racetrack. Oh, and there goes Fifi! Contact between her and Kohai, and she's around. Caution's out. What a disastrous of a run there. Wow. We saw David slide up the racetrack and the other 3 followed him. I'm pretty certain that same thing happened there in turn 3 and 4, but this time it was Fifi that did it a little too much going to that corner. I'll get one more look at it. She sent it from all the way that far back. Jesus. She was all the way back and forth. I don't know if she meant to send it. Oh, man. It just looked like Kohai just missed the corner. And then Fifi was going to just try and... And they both missed the corner. And boom, there they go. Slight contact. Nobody else involved. It is just a single car spin. Everybody's going down low. Well, everybody's going high. A few people going low. Yeah, it is. All right, so... Oh, wait. There's still some drivers coming through. Yeah, so it is just a single car spin. That's our second caution here, and it's on lap 37. Now I'd have to assume that everybody's going to come into the pits and get some tires, because we dropped off drop off a cliff with those lap times. So we're 37 laps into this race. We are not even a full fuel run in, and we have 2 cautions of today, which is double what we had at Kansas. Still not the most of the season. We had a caution fest in the beginning of Riverside, but after 30 laps, that became clean for the rest of that run. And it does look like everybody's coming in, and I am not shocked whatsoever. So that's going to go off. We got somebody staying out. Is that Khumalo staying out? Oh boy. The 20 is staying out. That is a questionable call, to say the least. I can understand doing that if you want to lead a lap, but Khumalo's already led a chunk of laps already. Unless they want to go into the pits later. Because it is very congested. You don't really see it right now. But it is very congested. 39 out of 40 cars on this pit lane. Not as tight, though. It is quite wide. But we're going to watch this race off pit lane here to see what happens. See if there's how much of a shakeup we're going to have here. How much are things going to change between the top part of the field? Because, ooh, wow. Ooh, Kilovolt's going to come out first. She got it. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, there has been some shakeups here. Yeah, there has been some shaking up here in this field. Competito's still in the pits. The driver that started on the front row, they're going to be back behind the top 25. So David came into the pits first. They're going to come out third, but technically second. Because Khumalo stayed out, but I would hope to God she pits from right here, because if she doesn't, she's making a horrible mistake. Yeah, she's pitting. Okay. Yep, there's a hard left turn down there. So Khumalo just pits a lap later, which might be a smart move. But we'll see. So we'll go through the field here momentarily once most of the field files through the start-finish line, which we might be one to go here because we don't have anybody a lap down. The only car on pit lane is Kamalo, who will catch up regardless. So, 39 laps on the board, and we will complete lap 39, so we'll restart on lap 40. It'll be Kilovolt in first, David in second, Bell to third, Starlight in fourth, and Kason in fifth, Shy Lily in sixth, Doki Bird seventh, Kyoso in eighth, Ruby in ninth, good spot for them right now, Get2 back to 10th. So inside the top 10, though. Outside the top 10, we have Iron Mouse in 11th, Dreamer in 12th, Shalon in 13th, Weebu in 14th, Zool with a nice pit stop, takes them to 15th spot. After getting involved in the first wreck of today, then you got Kohai in 16th, William in 17th, 18th is Jordan, 19th is Zen, 20th is Fujikura, 21st is Greg, 22nd is Jojo, 23rd is Noriboshi, 24th is Snuffy, 25th is Subaru, 26th is NASA, 27th is Soleil, Merriweather 28th, Michi 29th, Larry in 30th. The one car is reporting fuel issues. She came in. Oh, she was in the pits already. Oh boy. So Ina, who was... yeah, it's just... Oh boy, okay. That's our first mechanical problem of today. Saw the rest of the field on back, by the way, as Space Car is off and running. Ina is back out on track, but she is going to go one lap down. There's the field from the back to the front. As when we cross the line, we will be on lap number 40 for this restart here. Green flag is out. Kilovolt on the loud pedal first. Good jump there by the 34. Aina is not a lap down, actually. She will stay tail end of the lead lap, but she's going to need to have... She's going to need to have something. She's not a lap down, so that's good for them. They were able to get the... They were able to get the issue sorted out. Here comes David. Big run by the 77. Does not take the opportunity, well, slightly. Peaks low, but doesn't really try anything crazy going into turn 4 here. And so 69 drifts way up the racetrack. Wow, what a save by the 69. That was almost straight on into the wall. The 1's back in the pits, so they still have not fixed the issue for the 1. So Ina is still in big trouble. Shy Lily way up the racetrack in turn 1. Big time up the hill. Tied off 2 there. Oh, Dreamer thought twice of going 3 wide. That was a smart move. The way that was going to be a wreck. But now we got fresh tires, so now these drivers are going to be a little bit more aggressive here to try to see what they got on fresh tires. And you can see it here as we go through the field. A lot of drivers falling back quite a bit. Several drivers going way up the racetrack, including the 23. They finally hit the wall. There's been a lot of drivers that have been that close, and there's somebody that finally hit it, and it was 23. Unfortunate for them. They fall back to outside the top 15. There's still some 3-wide action going on through the field, especially in the back half of the field where everybody's trying to use up their stuff early on. Good or not, who knows? Top 3, though, still keeping haste. 1 is still back out on track, so, but they are... No, they're not 1 lap down. Or at least they weren't when they crossed the line. They weren't scored 1 lap down. Side by side for that 3rd place spot. Now you see the lap times, they're right under that 42-second mark for the drivers that are hot lapping and getting fast laps on the board. So, fast drivers, it'll be about a 41-second lap, somewhere in that range. The drivers that have the long run cars, that really doesn't matter. I mean, especially with how the tire wear is. Not a lot of new drivers inside the top 10 now. We got Bell, Doki Bird, who's just outside the top 5. But we got Iron Mouse in 7th, Kyoso in 8th, and Weebu and Dreamer. A couple extra drivers inside the top 10 that weren't in the top 10 earlier, as David now goes back to the race lead, down to the turn 1. Gyllenhaal's been relatively strong this season. Outside of a blunder at Kansas, where they wrecked out from the race lead, they've been doing really well for themselves. They might be a winner here in the early goings of this season. I'm not saying that as a spoiler. I'm saying that as a prediction, because that is a driver that has been really dominant. Like, in the first 3 races of the season, I've been calling out their names more than anybody else, it feels like. They've been up front quite a bit, especially in the early goings of the race, but Kansas was just not their day. Especially after what happened between them and Get2 and Bell and Michi. Speaking of them, they're relatively doing well for themselves. I mean, Get2 had a pretty bad restart, falls outside the top 20, but they're recovering well after scraping the wall off turn 4, so it could be a whole lot worse for them. David, once again, riding strong here going into the first, what would be the fifth of the way through, about a third. My math was way off. We're about to be a third of the way through this race. David told it strong at the moment. Yeah, they're right around that 200 mile an hour range going into turn 1. But they slow down quite a bit. They go from about 200 to 150. Bell takes second. So Kiri falls to third. K-Sun and Doki Bird 4th and 5th. I'm more surprised about Doki Bird being in 5th because they have not really been that strong at all in the early parts of this season in terms of finishing results. They've been up front a lot, I'll tell you that much. They've been up front, but they not when it matters most. Not when it matters the most. Morboshi falls way... There's a lot of drivers that have fallen way back. Oh, got Snuffy, who's also way off the pace. Snuffy's also way off the pace, too, in 39th. So we got Chris Cobb, who's still relatively off the pace. Don't know if that's strategic or if that's just them not having a setup whatsoever for this track. Then you got Snuffy, who's also off the pace. I didn't see any damage, so it looks also mechanical on the 33. And then you had the one who was reporting oil pressure issues, or oil issues in general. So they were in the pits for an extended period of time. But they're all on the lead lap. We got all 40 all still on the lead lap, which is a good sign to say the least, but a ton of drivers way off the mark. Their setups early on, but I guess that's what adjustments are for. Ina could still come back from this race. All she needs is maybe a caution and some luck, but that's that. Top 5 once again starting to pull away from the rest of the field. Right now, look at that gap. It's building. You go from Iron Mouse here, who's caught up to this pack. It's quite a gap till you get to 7th place. It's almost a side-by-side battle between Kyoso and Weebu. That is for the 9th spot. Yeah, that is it for 9th. Actually, Weebu passed Kyoso for that spot. Passed him on the high side. From the looks of it, it looks like the high side was viable for the 11 to get by. That's kind of crazy to me. If that was true. That's true. So got a long ways to go though, so I mentioned this earlier. This season has been all about parts in how this race shuffles out. Every pit stop feels like it's a big old shuffle in the makings here for the field. If we get a caution, it shuffles it quite a lot more, especially when you got drivers that are not too good with their short run setups. You got a lot of drivers that have a lot of good pit crews, but a lot of those said pit crews may be rushing things. Rushing adjustments that end up backfiring on a certain driver that makes them end up falling back in the short run, maybe even the long run too. They may just whiff entirely. With these cars, they have to be adjusted upon throughout the race. Like, there's no two ways about it. They got to be adjusted throughout the race. Because a few drivers are going to do it, which is going to give them an advantage. And if everybody does it, then somebody's going to have the biggest advantage, and somebody's going to swing and miss wildly. So it's a big-time gamble. Which means when these races are as long as they are, the first half of this race may not really matter so much, but it does set us up for what could be a very entertaining second half race, though. So right now we are officially a third of the way through this race. The top 6 are all within a second of each other. Slightly more once you get to Iron Mouse, but still around that 1 second range. But then you get to 7th place with Dreamer. They are 4+ seconds behind. And from the looks of it, Snuffy just got passed for the last place spot. So Snuffy's having bigger issues than what Ina's been having. It's a damn shame, because Snuffy was looking really good coming into today's race. They're looking good in the points, and they also qualified really well, but it's just a damn shame. They're having better luck outside of racing than they are racing. Kilovolt's fallen back a few spots. Doggy now to 4th. So far, a dominant run by David. Which, in terms of the storyline that we've talked about going into today's race, with a dominant car winning the first 3 races of the season, this is setting up to spoil the second half of this race. Unless I just jinxed David entirely, which I hope I didn't. But he's led a majority of this first 50 lap run. And here comes Bell underneath. Did I just jinx him already? Oh boy, I think I just jinxed him. We got problems on the 77. David's got a problem. He's slow. He's slow. He is slow. Oh boy. I just jinxed him. I thought the commentator's jinx was a thing of the past. No, we got a slow car. It's David. The dominant car of the first 55 lap run, and he's slow. He's still going, but he's slow. Oh my goodness. Oh my. Oh my. This is a traffic jam. Oh, he's got a problem, and now he's going to try and take it to the pits. He missed pit lane! Oh no. Oh no. Oh, it's all falling apart. Oh, it's all falling apart. '77 has a tire problem. It's nothing too mechanical, but he's lost it all. He went from the lead to 37th, and he is barely running on what, maybe 3 tires. He's got a problem. And he also just missed pit lane 2, so that's adding on even more troubles for the 77. I'm more heartbroken than stunned right now. Oh my. This time he'll make it to pit lane. Oh my god. Wow. I didn't even mean to jinx him like that. I was just saying, like, he was a dominant car, and it just... all of a sudden, that happened. Oh my god. That's a all right, bombshell moment of the race. The leader at the time of David, the dominant car of the first part of this race, practically out of this race because he had a tire going down. From the reports of it, it didn't look like it was mechanical. He is back out on track. And wow. He's up, it looks like he's up to speed. Yeah, he is up to speed. So now David's going to show us the whole thing of short pitting. Because he is flying across this racetrack. I should also mention this too. That whole ordeal that he just had checked up the whole field, and now the field just got absolutely shuffled out of proportions. So let's go through the field here on lap 60 of this race, as Bell will lead them to the line. With Iron Mouse following suit with a good run. Doki Bird third. Fourth place is Kason. Fifth place is Kiri Kilovolt. Sixth place being battled and traded by Weebu and Dreamer. Eighth place is Subaru, who started dead last, by the way, up to eighth. Ninth place is Soleil. 10th place being traded by Kyoso and Kohai. Zen back to 12th. Michi 13th. Shylily 14th. Kamala with 15th. Which essentially 15th from last place, because she pitted last. Metrix in 17th. 18th is Kuro. Actually, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th is Starlight. 19th is Jojo. 20th is Greg. 21st is Fifi. 22nd is Nekomata. Zool, 23rd. 24th is Mint. 25th, I think, would be Jordan. 26th would be Overdrive. There goes David, by the way. Oh my god, look out, DJ. Wow, that was a run. William will cross the line 27th. 28th will be NASA. 29th will be Merriweather. 30th will be Getu. 31st will be Competito. 32nd, Fujikura. 33rd, Noriboshi. 34th, Shalon. Asa, 35th. 36th, Ina. 37th, Snuffy. 38th, Larry. 39th, Chris. And then 40th, one lap down, is David. And now Iron Mouse back to, or not back to, but now up to the race lead. All of that shuffling went down because of what happened with David. That's crazy to me. Two reasons why that's crazy. One, mainly because of the fact that it was the dominant car so far of the race, just blowing a tire, essentially. Which we haven't really seen much of this season, but that happened. And secondly, because I was just talking about how David could easily win this race with how dominant he's been. And then as soon as I finished that sentence, like not even a second later, he started slowing up. Absolutely gutting. I mean, right now, David is currently around the top 20. And he's flying. He's setting 42 second lap times. Mostly in traffic, while everybody else is setting 40. He's 2 seconds quicker than everybody else. The thing about it is that David is he's running fast laps. And his issues happen quite early in this run. If he was on the lead lap, right now he would be 18th. Actually, no, he'd be in 19th. But he's what, 1 lap down? Yeah, he's only 1 lap down, so he has a chance to get back on the lead lap. But he's got to be careful because once everybody comes into the pits and gets better tires than him, then he's going to be the one that's going to be losing 2 seconds a lap. So that's an unfortunate turn of events, but still, that's another level of interest that's been added on into this race. Look at the run he gets because he's got the grip. He doesn't take it 3 wide. I give him credit for not wanting to force himself upon other drivers. I don't mean that in any other way other than the fact that he's a lap down and he's being a little bit more respectful than a lot of other drivers would. I'll give him that. I'll give him credit. I wouldn't. My race was turned upside down as early as it was. I'm trying to get my lap back as early as I can. I'm sending it 3, fuck it, 4 wide. Top 3 have once again pulled out to a minor pack of their own. 4th place of Kilovolt. There's a gaggle of cars behind her. But they're all about more than a second back. Dreamer's about to come up inside the top 5. Good run for him. Good run for him. Once David gets by most of this lap traffic, oh my god, he's going to be setting flyers around this track. He's getting to that point to where he's just catching just nothing but single file cars, so he could run a lane or 2 lower than the cars above him. I mean, he is essentially a GTP car surrounded by GTE cars. But then once everybody else goes into the pits, then it'll be role reversal. If David was on the lead lap, he'd be 13th right now. Now they are catching lap traffic. That's another thing David's got to be careful of, too. If a caution comes out, he needs to be the first car 1 lap down. Right now, that's going to go to Chris in the 73, as he's been having troubles all race long. He's also been struggling, and now he's going to go 1 lap down. And Kason's going to use him as a pick to get to 2nd. That's a ballsy move to make on lap 68 of all laps. I just want to see how quickly he catches Soleil here, because he's got some clean traffic ahead. His main target right now is to get past the 73. But really, that's just more of when that's going to happen rather than if that can happen. The only time that's if that can happen is if caution comes out within the next, 2 to 3 laps, maybe. Even that's pretty generous. So we'll quickly go through the field here once again as we come to lap 170. About halfway through this race. Little less than 5 laps to go for that mark. The Iron Mouse and Kason the top 2, practically nose to tail. And then it's Melanie Bell in 3rd, Kilovolt in 4th, Subaru in 5th, 6th is Weebu, 7th, about to be 6th, is Soleil. 8th is Dokibird, 9th is Dreamer. David's a lap down in 40th place. 10th place is Kamalo. 11th is Michi. 12th, I should say, is the 30 of Kuro. 13th is Zen. Kohai in 14th. 15th is Mentrix. 16th is Kyoso. 17th is Starlight. Greg in 18th. Mint in 19th. And Fifi in 20th. And the rest of the field on back. As JoJo's in the pits, so we are looking at some pit stops here. That does seem to be scheduled. Because it was lap 30, I believe? 30-something? We restarted on lap 40, so we've ran roughly about 35 laps on this set of tires. So JoJo's one of the first ones in. But that might also be strategy. That might also be strategy on the part of the 27. Because there he comes up pit road. He knows what David's doing. He's got that speed. I mean, David went from no man's land to now what would be the top 10 if he was on the lead lap. That's... And as well, it's not going to hurt JoJo as much. It's still going to hurt him in the second half of his run. But it's probably going to equal out. I don't know. I'll keep an eye on them. I want to keep an eye on him because he's the only car that's pitted other than David. Right now, we're on that tail end of this run. We can make it 50 laps, 50 to 55, but some drivers may come in early for the tires. I mean, David's right now about to be third. He's 38th right now, so he's the first car one lap down. It's also helping Soleil climb up a position. Soleil climbed from 6th to 3rd in one lap. So Soleil's even got a pretty strong car in the second half of this green flag run. Good run for them. They need it. They need it. They've had nothing but bad luck this season. And David's going to unlap himself naturally before a caution would come out, which would be kind of nice. That would be nice. David still needs a caution. He would benefit the most from a caution. Because there goes David. He's now back on the lead lap. But he needs a caution. He would benefit the most from it. Because he would get back on the lead lap, and he would be back on the same set of tires as everybody else. So all he would have to do is drive from the back of the field back to the front, which he did already. He started back in the 30s, in the later part of the 30s. He's done it once. He could do it again, but he needs a caution, and we've seen 2 already today. So we might, who knows? We'll see what happens. Where is the 27 on track? There's Jordan. I think Jordan's on his outlap right now. Is he on his outlap? Or is he just being really slow as well? He's on his in lap. Oh my, that's not good. Alright. There's a 27 right now on track. Nobody's on their outlap, so the 27 still has the freshest tires, but now the 15's in the pits. I don't know if Jordan has issues. His last... If I go back to him real quick. His last lap was a 40. Ew, if there was any issues, he managed to get them sorted quicker than David. Because he was running about 2 seconds slower than what everybody else was running. So maybe the same problems with David now have occurred on the 15. So now the 32 is now going into the pits. So if there were any issues with Jordan, they've sorted themselves out, but probably at the worst possible time because now they're going to come out. Maybe have a couple laps of fresh tires advantage, but they're not going to really be able to manage much with it. Yeah, you gotta also be careful here coming onto pit lane. We guys saw a lot of drivers slide up the racetrack off 4, coming into the, trying to avoid cars going into the pits. There may be something that happens between, I don't know, we'll see. Soleil has taken the race lead, by the way. So the 420's out front. Will they be able to lead a lap before they come into the pits, though? They need that point. Iron Mouse goes in. Soleil stays out. Several front runners coming in this time by. We're going to keep an eye on the, I want to say the 22. Oh, we have somebody that missed pit lane. That was Zen. Zen missed pit lane. Oh boy, problems for the 7. They missed pit lane. And now they'll have to go another lap on track. So there's David. And there's Jordan. They're running right next to each other. Kason. Soleil's now in the pits. Subaru stays out. So Subaru, who qualified dead last, they'll lead a lap. There's Chris, who we already saw has gone 1 lap down. Let's... Iron Mouse is on their outlap right now. So Subaru right now, the race leader, but will have to make a pit stop here momentarily. Trying to see... I believe the way that I'm thinking, the top three is going to be Iron Mouse, Kilovolt, and Bell, unless somebody comes out ahead of them. 33, the 77, 2, looking at the leaderboard here, maybe Kason? Iron Mouse gets by Soleil, who was ahead of them. Going into the pits. Larry's going to go a lap down. There's Kason running all by themselves. David's going in. So David's not risking anything crazy. He's going in. He's just going to accept the losses here. We saw Kason go into the pits early. If this is a big jump by the 32, my God. We're currently second ahead of Snuffy, but Snuffy is one of those other drivers that we've seen have plenty of issues today. In fact, there they are. They are slow and holding up a ton of drivers. Which is not helping any of these drivers at all. Oh my God. We saw Zen miss pit lane. Uh-oh, Snuffy trying to get into the pits, but Jordan went right underneath that. It was almost disaster. Yeah, Snuffy trying to hold on for dear life here. But they're only making things worse for them and many other drivers. David's coming back on track. Trying to see where everybody is. So there's Kason, who's now going to be the race leader. Naturally. Snuffy's holding her up quite a bit, though. But Snuffy's going to go into the pits this time, so that's going to relinquish not only the lead to Kason, but also a ton of other spots. Snuffy is not going into the pits. Alright, I question that a lot, but you do you, boo. So there's Larry Reed in 38th. David 37th. Actually would be 38th. So he's back a lap down after all is said and done. Iron Mouse would be second after passing Snuffy. But, dude, that is quite a gap, though. That is 6.5 seconds. That's quite a gap that Kason was able to build. Soleil in proverbial... Well, not proverbial. Third place, technically. And then you got Kilovolt and Bell, who would round out that top 5. Subaru was able to manage themselves quite well. Managed to come out 8th. Not bad for them. Metrix is in the top 10. Looking at the field here, roughly. Jojo was able to manage... I mean, top 20. I don't know where they came in at, but they definitely are doing fine for themselves right now. Top half of the field. There's Jordan, who we saw have the same issues as David. 30th. Zen, who missed pit lane. 31st. And then you go all the way back. There's Kason, who's actually right next to this gaggle of cars here. I'd assume most of them probably just had horrible pit stops and just could not, for the life of them, have any sort of luck on pit lane. Rather unfortunate. Change for second place. Yet Soleil up to second. Yeah, most of the changes happening are because of Snuffy. She still hasn't pitted, and she's running more than, what, 5 seconds slower? 42.577. Mostly 45s, and then you got 47s for the 33. Yeah, tires are a big deal here at this track. If you need any more proof, yeah. I know the 33 has been struggling all day today, but I would be struggling too if I was out more than a dozen or so laps on older tires. Good lord. So more than halfway through the race, 32 at Quezon has a dominant 7-second lead over Soleil, and over a 10-second gap past the top 5. Quezon's probably going to try and run conservative here for the next couple of laps here, especially having this big of a lead. At least I would. I mean, you got that big of a lead, you might as well try to run conservative and let Soleil and the rest run their stuff out. Solid day here so far by the number 44, the Subaru. They started from dead last. They climbed up through the field. A couple cautions, a couple good pit stops later, and there she is, back in the 7th spot. Donkey Bird as well, another driver that hasn't had some good amount of luck here in the early goings of this season, but had a good finish at Kansas last race, and now they're looking to have another one today. Let's get a points update, shall we? Let's see. Noriboshi coming into today's race with a 7-point gap, sitting in the 25th spot at the moment. William just behind her. So the points for the top 2 will stay the same. David, yeah, we've documented his struggles today. Had a tire going down early in the race. Tried to recover, and it's just accepted his losses pretty much. He's sitting 37th. And let me actually take a gander at the points momentarily. Kaito would be the next one. We've also documented they've been struggling today, so everybody top 4 in the points. The best driver inside the top 4 in points is 25th. Top 5, let's see where Mint is. Mint is 14th, so the best driver right now inside the top 5 in points is currently in 14th place. How many points were they coming into today? Or how many points? 29? They can make up quite a bit here today. I haven't talked about Mint at all today, other than the fact that she won at Kansas. But man, oh man, it would be like let's see, about 10 points. That'd be about maybe a 10, maybe slightly more than 10-point gap between them and the championship leader. Like, there's going to be a lot of points. There's going to be a lot of shaking up in the points here today, which I'm not too shocked. That is how this thing's going to happen for the rest of this early part of the season. Man. That's crazy. Speaking of shuffling, we got some shuffling going on inside the top 5. Bell's now to 2nd. Subaru to 3rd. And now Soleil's fallen back to the 5th place spot. What a move by Subaru. She looked high and now pulled low. It's going to look for 2nd place. They're still 7 seconds back from Quezon. Quezon, I don't know what they did on that pit stop. I know they came in a couple laps earlier than everybody else. And especially they were inside the top 5 when they did that. And because of that, they just pulled a gap. I mean, it's a gap. And they're not even, like, really losing any time. Like, if they're running conservatively, God forbid what they got when they got the second half of this run. They're just going to maintain, they can maintain this gap quite easily as long as they don't over-conserve. They also got some lap traffic ahead, too. Not too far ahead, but it is visible. There they are. It's Shalon and Asa. Again, the 14 of Asa. Not a good showing whatsoever by them. I know we're about 50, we're 60 laps away from the finish, and stuff can happen, but I don't know, man. I don't know. It's a bit of a heartbreaker for them still. Them and Shalon. They need to start having some good runs here, and they're not doing that whatsoever. Kayson's running conservative laps right now, but Subaru's running aggressively fast laps. 42.9 for second place. Leader ran a 43.6. Yeah, they're faster. By a margin. Second, third, and fourth running calmly distant from each other. Soleil has dropped outside the top 5 now. Now it's Doki Bird, who is now 5th on the board. A little bit less of a gap now, not by much, but still a little less. David and Larry are catching Kayson, which may show you how conservative Kayson's running. She's not trying to lap the 17 or the 14. She's just trying to maintain the lead until they pit one last time. Because that's the thing. Kayson pitted a couple laps earlier than everybody else, so even if she runs aggressive, she's still gonna have... Even if she runs conservatively to try and maintain the tires, it's still going to be a disadvantage for them in the long run. But if they run conservative enough, they can... That's what happened. I know I clicked the button. Clicked my mute button on accident. I think I noticed that. I didn't really say anything, though, so there was that. If there was ever a moment for me to accidentally mute myself, it was then, because I didn't really say anything. The only thing I did say was that if either Larry or David passes Kayson, they're still going to need a caution. Because they're going to need more than just their lap back. They're going to need a caution. But everybody's running really spread apart. And nobody's really trying to run close to the wall. Well, I say that. You saw Competito there, just almost scraping the wall completely. Go one more time through the field. Yeah, JoJo's starting to fall now. He pitted a couple laps earlier than Kayson. He's falling back behind the top 25. There's a lot of heartbreaks going on right now that I'm looking at it. It's like, man. Thing about this series, there's a lot of triumphs, but a lot of struggling and heartbreaks as well. And now Kayson's starting to push the issue with both Shalon and Asa as they want to get a couple more cars a lap down. There's more cars that are in between them and whoever's in second, the better. So right now, not only is Kayson fighting to put the 17 and the 14 lap down, they're also trying to keep the 4 and the 77 one lap down. But Larry is going to say, no thank you. Push her up the track. And they are faster than her. Well, there goes Larry, and there goes David. Well, for the moment, David's the first car one lap down. They're side by side with Kayson. Right now, it's going to be Shalon that's the first car a lap down. But again, all 4 of these drivers that are a lap down or about to be, they need a caution. And now, because of all this lap traffic, Kayson's gap for the lead is now dwindled down to less than 3 seconds. Or might be by the time they get across the line again, but right now it's 3.2. When you deal with this lap traffic, you got no choice but to run their speed, and if they're slower, then you run slower. You essentially become the lap traffic. You become one with. Now it's down to 2.3. Because, I mean, Kaysan this entire time, they've been having to run now 44 fives because everybody else around them is running the same lap times. But Subaru, about a second faster. Because she's got open space. Got that fresh air. Doesn't have to worry about anybody. So now Kaysan may be trying to she might push the issue a little bit more. And she already has a disadvantage with the pit stops because her tires are not equal to everybody else around her. She already has a pretty big disadvantage as is, but now it's starting to dwindle now even more. I want you to also take a peek at the top 10 and look at the guy who just got up to 6th place. What a run by Metrix. I haven't talked about him much at all today, but after this last pit stop, he has climbed. He's up to 6th. Soleil falls to 8th. They were 2nd at one point. They fell all the way to 8th. And now just barely in some of these shots, you can see a bright yellow 44 car of Subaru creeping into the frame. They are chopping this lead down. But now Asa and Shalon are now behind the 32, so now they're a lap down. In terms of all the cars that are a lap down, we have the 14 now 1 lap down. Shalon, Snuffy, Chris, and JoJo are now a lap down, because I think JoJo may have just pitted from the sounds, from the looks of it. And then you got Ina, who's now officially 4 laps down after the issues that we've seen earlier. Metrix is up to 5th now. Yeah, JoJo has pitted, because that right there is his out lap. And he's flying. So, right now the 27 is a lap down, but also they have pitted. They're doing their cycle thing now. Now it looks like Kaysan's probably going to have to do something similar here momentarily, because that's when Kaysan had to pit. Because they got Subaru right on their tails right now. But they stay out, and we got 50 laps to go. So if anybody pits right now, they'll make it on fuel. And now finally we got a lead change here. It took us the entirety of this green flag run after the pit stop. And now it's Subaru to the point. I won't really go through the field. I thought about it, but I was thinking, like, man, we only got, like, maybe 5-10 laps before everybody starts coming into the pits. Just better if you take a peek on the leaderboard at the top left. That's how the field runs going into the final stint of this race. All it's going to take is one more caution, though, and this whole field is going to be shuffled around like a deck of cards. And now, not only is Subaru took the race lead away, but she's also going to start building a gap, because it's now up to half a second. I would worry if I was Larry and David, because now you got Subaru who's actually quick on their tail. And right now, what the 4 and the 77 need is a caution, like I said. Everybody needs a caution, except for everybody that's inside the top 3. All it's going to take for Subaru and Kaysan is one more good stop on pit lane. Because they both got a 3-second gap to 3rd place on back. And it only gets even more as you climb through that pack. It's 3 seconds right now, maybe less. Nope, it's more actually. It's 3 seconds right now, but you get to 5th place of Metrix, it's 5. You get to 8th place of Soleil, it's more than 10. They just need a solid stop. Like, even if it's a bad stop, if it's a bad stop, they'll probably fall back to, like, the back half of the top 10, which, with less than 40 laps to go for the final run, that's still going to be a win for especially Subaru, who started last. If Subaru wins this race, she's going to complete the worst to first challenge. And I didn't think we were going to see that at all this season, but that is a possibility here with 55 to go. Or sorry, 45, not 55, 45 to go. I caught myself. Oh, it looks like the 10 of Williams got to be having some tire problems too, because they're slowing up big time. Now, some drivers may be running short on these set of rims here. Oh, we got the pole sitter of Ruby also having issues. Because now they're about to go one lap down. We talk about Subaru going from worst to first. We're talking about Ruby going from first to almost worst. My God. To be the first car one lap down, you got to drop all the way back to 33rd on the board. And that's where the 38 is. And that's where the 10's about to be. Remember, from here on out, you can make it to the end on your fuel stint, but the question is tires. Nobody wants to go in because they don't want to be that guy that's a sitting duck with under 10 laps to go. You may get the lead, but will you be able to maintain the tires? And will you be able to maintain long enough to maybe have the tires to defend? I mean, this is a pretty big racetrack, and this whole racetrack is full of cars. This is a spread out race. Like, this is a very spread out event, because we've ran green flag ever since lap 40. We're coming up to less than 40 to go here shortly soon. Which means if anybody comes into the pits relatively soon, they won't really have a disadvantage. Oh, the 22 outlap? Is that the outlap, or are they struggling now? We have a lot of drivers struggling with their tire. I can't tell. I think that's... No, I don't think that's their outlap. I think they're slow. Oh my God, Iron Mouse, who we saw is in the top 5 all day today. They're slow. They got tire problems. 47-second lap. Oh my God. This is insane. I knew tires were going to be a problem at this track. I didn't think they were going to be this bad. They are horrible. Saw David from the race lead early. In case anybody missed it, David was leading the race essentially, dominating it. And now there he is, 2 cars ahead of Subaru, about to be 1 lap down because he basically blew a tire from the race lead. Like, these tires, they suck at this track. We have 10 cars, essentially, 1 lap down. And a lot of them aren't even drivers that have been bad this race. The one of Ina and the 33 of Snuffy are like the only 2, well, maybe Chris as well, but the first 2 names, they've had mechanical problems. Ina with oil issues, Snuffy unreported, but definitely some issues somewhere for the 33. But everybody else... Chris has been just mainly slow, naturally. I hate to say that, but he's just a bad day for them in the shop. Subaru way up the racetrack, in the wall even. What is happening? A 5-second lead, that's going to dwindle way down now because... I don't know if she thought the 77 was pitting? I don't know. Now there's damage. Does she now have a problem? Does she now have a problem? Does Subaru have a problem now? They gotta pit. These drivers gotta pit sooner rather than later. They are shredding these tires. So Iron Mouse fall a lap down. I've seen Kason drop from first all the way down to sixth. Keep in mind, Kason had a 7-second lead at one point, and now she's behind the race leader by more than 7 seconds. That's how crazy things could change because of the tires. Now, second place is Mentrix. And third place is Weebu. Fourth place is Kilovolt. I can't tell if anybody's on newer tires or not. Okay, let's see. Jojo is. He's running blazer of a lap compared to everybody else. 43-second lap times. Come on now. There are some cars stacking up. It2's in 20th, but still 45 seconds, 46, 45s. Some drivers running 45s. Everybody's running 45s except for some that are slower, running 46s. I think Jojo may be the only one. Nope, Ruby's in now. Iron Mouse is in. Couple drivers, not many, but a couple. They're finally saying, we're done. We're done with these tires. Take us less than 40 laps on these final sets. We'll take what we can get. There goes Chris. He's in the pits. David, had to take abrasive action. He barely missed the wall, but he's going to go down a lap again. And now Larry's also going to go a lap down as well because Subaru's got the lane advantage. Now, this is where the drivers that just pitted, they're going to need... They're going to be flying. They're going to be flying, but... Really, with how spread out this track is... with how spread out this field is, I don't know if it's going to mean much at all. Mentrix pitted from the second spot. So now it's Weebu in second. Bell to third. Good run by them. They've been running up front all day today, so I'll give them credit. They've been consistent. So has Kilovolt. They've been consistent. There goes the 4 Larry. Subaru's staying out a little bit longer. Not saying that's a bad move. That's honestly probably better than you think. Because they got a 7-second lead. They don't have to really care. They could run it. They could run the opposite end of this of the strategy. Where they run longer. They could do that because they'll be, at worst, still inside the top 10. And with less than 30 laps to go, less than 25 if they pit later, they can manage to probably eke out a podium, maybe a win, from just being that much quicker. We'll have to see what the 44 strategy is. They're coming in now, as well as the 5. So they want to stay out, but they don't want to stay out too much longer. A lot more drivers have came in by the time Subaru has come in. So we'll keep an eye on the 44. The top 2 have pitted. Weebu's in now, and so is Subaru, and I think several others inside the top 3 have as well. Yeah, basically everybody's pitted now. So there's Subaru. She's the first pit stall because she started from dead last, so we'll see how things shake up here with less than 35 to go in this race. Was it a good stop by the 44? Was the tire strategy a little too aggressive by the 44? Who knows? They are now in and out. Keep an eye on them. They're just coming out behind, coming out behind Competito, who is obviously not on the lead lap. I think, did Metrix just pass? Oh my god, Metrix just passed her. Bold strategy called by the 45 to come down maybe a lap or two early. Jesus, look at that. 42-second lap time. That is foreign to me now. Remember, Subaru on those older tires was running 45 lap times. 45 seconds. Metrix came in about 2 or 3 laps earlier, so in total that's maybe 5, maybe 6 seconds faster. And plus this lap too being the out lap Who stayed out? Michi? Okay, so Michi's gonna... Actually, Michi's running fast laps. No, Michi's got some good tires on her. She's going to the end on this set of tires. I don't know when Michi pitted. I know when Mentrix pitted. I don't know when Michi pitted. I'll know by the lap times here this time by. It's a almost 4-second gap. And DJ Overdrive, who's behind, obviously a lap down, they're a lot quicker. 43.2 for Michi. And for Mentrix, a 42 flat. Jesus. Yeah, okay, so basically disregard Michi as the race leader. That is not going to last long with still 32, I should say, with 32 laps left. Subaru came out in third, so a good pit stop by them, but they are about 7 seconds back, about 5 seconds from Mentrix. Jojo was able to squeak out to 5th, but yeah, unfortunately not. No, it's not gonna stay. It's not gonna stay. So there goes Bell, and there goes Doki Bird. Those two for position. So now Bell and Doki Bird, 5th and 6th. It was worth a shot. That is true. Mint now inside the top 10. Kason, who we saw the race leader at one point by 7 seconds, is 9th. Kilovolt in 10th. And Soleil in 11th. Dreamer in 12th. Fujikura 13th. Merriweather 14th. 15th is Fifi, 16th is Kohai, 17th is Kyoso, 18th, I should say, is Norimboshi, 19th is Zool, and 20th is Jordan. And then you got Getu and Kuro battling for a spot. And there's the race lead being changed, hands officially, so there goes Mentrix for the race lead. As the 2-car, basically a sit duck. Michi tried. I will give her credit. She tried a different strategy, and it just did not work. Now, with Mentrix, his strategy is not much different from Subaru's. He just came in about maybe a lap, I would say no, about 2 to 3 laps earlier than Subaru, and he was able to not only have a solid stop, but clean track. The most vital part of that strategy is clean track. If he had clean track the entire time, he's setting 42-second lap times. He's still setting them. You got Subaru right back here, still running lower 42 seconds. I mean, Mentrix, in general, has got a fast car. He's got a pretty fast car. This could be his day. He's got 30 laps, and he's got a pretty good gap. He's got a good gap. He's got some help behind. By help, I mean lap traffic to help keep the 44 behind. And he's also, again, 6 seconds to that said 44 car. But then they also have 10 seconds to any more competition. So right now, it's just a battle between the 45 and the 44. Well, Petitot's going to get a lap back, which, by the way, let's go through that. There are 30 cars on the lead lap. 31 now that the 5's gone. Iron Mouse is the first car 1 lap down. Then you got David. Listen to this lineup. You got Iron Mouse, David, William, Ruby, Shalon, Asa, Snuffy, and Chris 1 lap down. And then Ina 4. Due to their oil pressure issues earlier in the race. 28 laps to go here at the Meadowlands Speedway. And the 45, we might be seeing ourselves another first-time winner here today. But as soon as I was talking good about David, problems for him arise. So I'm trying to hold my tongue here a little bit. Still about 6.5 seconds to Subaru. And that gap to Michi, I mean, obviously that gap to Michi is just going to climb more and more because Michi is on god-awful sets of tires. God knows when she pitted. I don't. 43.860, maybe a 43 through probably the same lap time. 44, Jesus, even dropped off more than that. Good lord. So Michi is running 2 seconds slower than the race leader, roughly. Meanwhile, Subaru, who's on better tires, slightly, if anything, still about 7 seconds back. But Metrix is going to have to deal with some lap traffic, some slower than the rest. He's got Overdrive right now to deal with, who is right now not really too keen on going 1 lap down. But unfortunately is going to fall 1 lap down. So back to 30 cars on the lead lap. "25 laps to go. And to cross the line. There's really not much I could say right now other than just wait to see if... Just wait till the laps clock down. We'll just say that. Because the clock just keeps ticking down for Mentrix in the best way possible. It is still a 6-second gap. Now 7.5. A big-time gain there by the leader here. Even with lap traffic, still a good lap. So Metrix, Michi, Subaru, Bell, Doki Bird is the top 5. Then you got Weebu, Soleil, Mint, Fujikura, then Keisan the top 10. But that is a gap. Like, it is spread out. Half of this track separates the first place car to the 10th place car. And we still have 30 more cars on track around this track. So, it's... battles are quite scarce to find. But we even have a battle for the 2nd spot, if it means anything. As Michi just continues to fall down the list... slowly but surely because of their strategy. But these two drivers are more than 7.5, maybe 8 seconds back from the race lead. And it's even hurting their chances of even getting a chance to win this race. Because they're racing their stuff off, and Mentrix isn't even doing that at all because he doesn't have any reason to. Which for Bell, I'm not gonna be against any of this battling for 2nd right now because it's points. They know that at this point, it might just be game over. Hate to be pessimistic for 2nd on back. But they're battling for points right now, and they got to. 1 position is 1 point, and we've seen how the spread of points is in the point standings. It's not a lot of points. A lot of drivers are tied for positions in the point standings. So 1 position is 1 point, which could mean the difference between a top 10 in points to outside the top 15 in points. That's how crazy the points are. Even 4 races into this season. So Bell and Doki Bird are up a spot. Subaru falls back to the 4th place spot. 5th place comfortably is Weebu. And 6th is comfortably right now Soleil's. 20 to go here at Meadowlands. And the gap is slightly down now compared to what it was before. But it could just be, again, the race leader just running a bit more conservatively just to keep... Because, again, with how the tires have been, if I have a 7-second lead, I want it to be less than 3. I'd save a little bit of time. I'd save a little bit. Because the tires are so bad, you don't want them to just blow on the final lap despite pitting with only like 30 to 40 to go. We've seen a lot of drivers randomly just have tire malfunctions of any kind. Anything can happen, that's the problem. So if you could back up a corner a little bit, slow it up a little bit, conserve the tires, even just a little bit, it may look like they're falling back, but they just may be conservatively running themselves to the finish. I mean, with 20 to go, don't risk it. Don't risk blowing a tire and not going from a 7-second lead to being 7 seconds away from having to go into the garage. I mean, as well, Metrix still has some lap traffic to help. They got Iron Mouse, they got David. They got a few cars that are just riding around. Also just not... If anything, they're just trying to maybe battle around the lap traffic that they want to, you know, if they got positions ahead of them, they'll probably battle for. But if not, they'll just ride around, try to log laps. So the good news for Metrix is that even though they're falling back to about 5 seconds between them and second, they got some lap traffic to help them. Help build that gap and maintain it. I mean, especially David. David really wants to stay on the lead lap and stay at least the first car 1 lap down, but unfortunately that's not the case. He has to get by the 12. But he's going to stay ahead of the 69, or at least try to. Now down to less than 5 seconds. I would be a little concerned right now, though, if I was Metrix, because yes, you are conservatively running your stuff right now. If you are not careful, you may have been doing that a little too early. Because right now, Bell and Doki Bird are closing the gap. Last several laps, at least, they've been closing the gap. Not so much this lap, although slightly. But they have been closing the gap. If Metrix is running conservatively, he's got to start running more moderate here in a minute. He's got to. He still has 15 laps. He's got 2 drivers that are pretty experienced bearing down his neck right now. I mean, if Doki Bird and Bell continue to battle, that could help out Metrix a lot more than you think. Especially if they try to aggressively run each other up the racetrack and pinch each other down the racetrack. You can only continue this for so much until their stuff gives out. But if they are if Bell and Doki Bird do this right, which it looks like they are, they can close this gap and maybe make it a battle for the win here. I mean, it was a late shot at Kansas for Ruby to win for a win, but it didn't work out for them. But this week it may be different. Because right now that gap went from 7 seconds down to 3.5. And now Bell got around David, so now there's slight clean traffic ahead of him. Them. Not him, them. I was noticing DJ Overdrive for a second, and that's why I thought that, but now it's down to less than 3 seconds between Metrix and Bell. "15 laps to go. I would start running a little bit aggressive here. Unless Metrix stuff is starting to get a little bit used up in a very worryingly manner. There's not really any traffic ahead. I mean, there is William and Lily ahead, but they're running, for the most part, faster laps. 13 laps to go, and the gap is dwindling down. It's coming down. A little worryingly. This is starting to get a little worrisome for the 45. Is he conserving his stuff, or is this what he has to run to the finish? At first, I thought he was running conservative, but now it's like, I would go. Use up your stuff. You got 15 laps, and you got second and third bearing down on you. Gotta go. It doesn't sound like he's really running fast at all. 13 to go, and a second has been sliced off. Oh my god. There's Bell. She's in the background now. And they only got one car to deal with that isn't for position. Doki Bird's getting held up quite a bit. Bell is charging. 12 laps to go. Bell's underneath. Oh boy. Bell's in the picture now. More and more. There's Michi, by the way. I don't where did she come from? Alright. Battle for the lead here. $11 laps to go. Metrix holds the bottom. But here comes Bell to the bottom. And now it's Bell that takes the race lead with under 11 to go. And Metrix doesn't have anything for her. Wow. What a turn of events this is. I thought Metrix had this in the bag, but I think he used up his stuff by not doing much. Doki Bird, who's third, is being held up by 3 different drivers. In fourth place, Subaru is basically nowhere to be found. Also, Soleil's climbed up inside the top 10. Got a couple, I think we got Mints in the pits. Problems for the 21, or 26. So problems for the 26, and problems for the 45. Albeit not major problems, but the win has slipped out of his grasp. It's now Melanie Bell with the lead here with under 9 laps to go. Doki Bird can't really do much of anything else. They still got David around them, and just David's not giving up. He's trying desperately to stay on the lead lap. Or at least if a caution were to come out, be the first car 1 lap down. So far, he is. Got under 8 laps to go. Metrix has fallen back considerably. So now even if Bell were to run slightly aggressive, it's not going to mean much at all. Because second place, whoever it may be, is just not having the time at all. They are really struggling with all this lap traffic. Whoa, David! Whoa, contact! David and Doki Bird almost got into it with each other there. My God. David's going to finally just lay low a little bit here, but man, things are getting antsy here for no positions whatsoever, by the way. Oh, contact. Kaison's also running aggressively right now. Oh, contact between the two lappers. Doki Bird and, or sorry, Kason and David, they hit each other. Doki Bird takes away the second spot. More than 2 seconds back, almost 3. Now Shy Lily's now a lap down, so there's that. Michi's going to try and get back with their lap. I guess at some point Michi did pit. And is trying to find some solace here. Mint also pitted, but it's going to finish back half of the 30s. Under 5 laps to go here. That was a wild situation between David and Doki. David was trying to throw a block and Doki just had none of it. I am more so shocked that that was a save, by the way. That almost was a disastrous wreck. We've had a few close calls in this race. We've had 2 cautions and a lot of close calls. 5 laps to go. And I don't think the gap's dropping at all. It's the opposite. It's gaining. And this is Bell's first time leading, I believe, all season. Wait, no, that's kind of a lie. I'm a liar. They have led a few laps throughout the course of this season. But they have had a struggle of a season. Would you believe it if I told you that this was the first year's champion? If you were to only have watched this season, you wouldn't have thought that. The way that they've been struggling all season long. Granted, they were involved in a wreck at Daytona, which took them out, which was not a good start whatsoever. And then Riverside was just a dud of a race. And then Kansas, they also got involved in a wreck. So they have not had a good start to the season whatsoever, but things could turn around just like that. All it takes is a win early in the season, and yeah, I mean, you join the list of Mint, Noriboshi, and William, and those 3 drivers are all inside the top 10 in points. And with how this season's been, a win here today would put Bell, if not in the top 10, easily in the top 15. And with under 2 laps to go and the gap to a point where it's virtually impossible to gain back unless absolute grip hacks were used. Even if a caution comes out, it's more than academic at this point. Clean track ahead. Contact between the 60 and the 17. I actually want to look at this real quick. There is no caution. Oh my god. Big time damage by the 6. Wow, this is a big time wreck here. So trouble between Shalon and Merriweather. They hook each other into the backstretch wall. The 17 will continue just fine, straightening out. The 60, although down on the bottom, they're going to be slow. But down on the bottom. I was talking about a wreck that could potentially happen. There it was. Too little, too late. And even if a caution did come out, which I don't know how I don't know how. I truly don't know how that wasn't a caution, but I don't know. That's what, the second time? That's the second time in the last 2 races that kind of situation has happened, but even if it did come out, it would just delay the inevitable. And it would make the results sheet a little bit better looking at the surface level. But be that as it may, white flag is in the air for Melanie Bell as Kason gets their lap back. I think they're 2 laps down. If not, they're still not in contention whatsoever. Albeit they were in contention early in this race, but they not so much anymore. I mean, Bell doesn't really have to do anything whatsoever, just cruise to this victory. And that's what they're doing right now, essentially. A 4.5 second gap to Doki Bird in the second spot. Metrix will come home in third place, if not fourth place. It's still a top 10 finish for them, unless they get wrecked, which hopefully doesn't happen now. But off of turn 4, last year's champion, struggling a little bit this season. A wreck in 2 out of the 3 races, but in the 4th race of the season, they'll be in victory lane. It's Melanie Bell with the win at Meadowlands. Essentially cruise their way to a victory here today. A good call by them on the pit lane there. Subaru falls back to 8th place after leading for the majority of what was that second to last green flag run. Good finish by Doki Bird. They will come home second. Solid finish by Mentrix, although they were in contention to win this race in a dominant fashion similar to Bell. They still come home in third, so still a solid day regardless of what ended up happening with less than 15 to go. Kelso in 4th, and Soleil rounds out the top 5. So a solid day by a lot of drivers that otherwise have been struggling throughout the course of this season. We'll go through the final results here momentarily. Let's bring that up, shall we? I am shocked at the tire things that happened this entire day, so there's that. Results for today's race. We will not have a dominant driver winning in today's race, so that's the first time that this has happened all season. With a driver that has led to the line to win the race, they did not lead the most laps, so Bell will not get the most amount of points, but will still get a good amount of points to win today's race. Doki Bird, again, I went through the whole top 5, so there's that. But do keep in mind, everybody that won inside the top 5, or I guess everybody inside the top 10, everybody inside the top 10 started outside the top 10. So it was a wild shuffle today, but from qualifying to finishing results. So as you see the results here, scroll through your screen. Fujikura in 6th, Fifi 7th, Subaru in 8th, Greg in 9th. What a day by him. I don't know where that came from, but he finishes 9th after wrecking early in the race, and Dreamer rounds out the top 10. Outside the top 10, we have several drivers that were just dominant inside the top 10 all day. Falling back late, got Weebu, Kiri, Angelina, Starlight. Zool was also involved in that first wreck that happened, but both those cars managed to hold their own just fine and survive the chaos that was a lot of tire failures, essentially. And Zool will finish 15th. Jordan comes home 16th after also having tire problems. Merriweather 17th, Noriboshi 18th, Competito 19th, Kaito in 20th, Getu 21st, Kohai 22nd, William 23rd, Michi 24th, Keisan, Kuro, Larry, and Zen all around each other, like the dev on top of each other coming to the line. All for 25th and 20, all the way to 28th. And the first car to finish one lap down will be Jojo, who finishes 29th. David led the most amount of laps today with 28. But unfortunately will finish one lap down after suffering tire problems of their own. And they'll finish where they started, in 31st position. Snuffy, Iron Mouse, Overdrive, Shalon, Mint, Ruby, and Asa all finished one lap down. Most of them with tire problems. Shalon with damage, had to go into the pits, I believe. If not, they ran the last several laps with damage after getting into it with Merriweather. And then he got Chris, who finishes the day in 39th, 2 laps down, and Ina with oil issues in 40th. Total of 16 lead changes spread across 13 different drivers, which is actually really short, like really small compared to the rest of like the series so far up to this point. Points coming out of today's race here. The gap between Noriboshi and William has increased, and Noriboshi can even say that they got a more comfortable points lead going into next week's race. Nothing changed inside the top 4 in terms of the drivers. A lot changes outside of that. Weebu now in 5th. Doki Bird now 6th. Soleil now cracks inside the top 10 in 7th. Jordan falls back to 8th, but still a good performance by them. Keeps them in the top 10. Angelina and Kiri will now also creep themselves inside the top 10 in points. Mid drops 6 spots. Mentrix gains 15, and Kyoso also gains a solid double digits amount of points. They are both outside the top 10, but barely. Jojo falls 5. They're now 14th in points. And Kason rounds out the top 15 in 15th place, obviously. The winner of today's race, Bell, I did say they were going to probably gain a lot of spots. They did. I'm not saying they didn't, but they're 25th still in points. That's how bad their season has been. Even with a win here today, they still can only manage, at best, a 25th place spot in the points. And a majority of the points will continue to scroll down here. Now, okay, hold on. I just saw this. You won't see it on screen, but Iron Mouse sits 39th in the points. Good God. They were 3rd place last season to end it, and now they're dead last practically. Chris Cobb sits dead last in points. 117 back from the championship leader. There's our upcoming races coming up here. Nazareth is next, and then Martinsville, then Lamar, then we got Gateway. So a handful of curiously fun races coming up here for the VTuber Racing Series. Now, I got a couple updates here. I mentioned this in the beginning part of the race, but I'll mention it here. I did not stream the last couple of days, mostly because I was sick physically. And I'm at 80% essentially this entire race. So I should be better by Monday, if not Tuesday, because I got all of that off. So from work. I mentioned that because I was supposed to stream the VTuber football tournament, the second half of the first round, but I did not. I'm going to try to get to it tomorrow. I say try, because there is a lot of streams coming this week. Mostly collabs. And I don't know if I'm going to have enough time to do the VTuber tournament. If I do, I'm going to be probably pulling double shifts with my streams. So that's probably what's going to end up happening. And more than likely, I'm going to be doing 2 different streams some days. So there's that. But I should be doing the VTuber football tourney sometime tomorrow morning, hopefully. And then take a little bit of a break before doing another stream. I would hope so. Well, that is going to do it from me. I'm going to watch the rest of the Daytona 24, and then I'll... No, what else I'll do. We'll see. But thank you all so much for tuning in. I will be back, hopefully, early tomorrow, if not later tomorrow, for a stream. Thank you all so much for watching. Take care, and have a good one.